Hello and welcome back. My name is Delmico L. Cunningham, better known as Dr. Media. So, last time here on the channel, we talked about, of course, one of my favorite subjects, which is Freenas, right? So, in the last couple of months, I've been trying to find ways and some things that make Freenas completely awesome besides just being Freenas. Now, one of the things in my last video I was talking about really how cool Freenas 11 is, and how if unless you just hate your life, don't ever download Freenas 10. And in that video I talked about being on Freenas 11. Now, since that video, I had an issue with my thumb drive, and I did make another video about making sure you always back up your thumb drive installation in case your thumb drive dies. Well, actually, it's not even in case it dies; it's for when it dies, because it will die eventually. It's a USB drive. They're cheap for a reason. So anyway, when I had to do that, when I had to go back and build another USB stick, I had never updated my Z pools to Freenas 11. So even though I was running Freenas 11, my Z pools were not updated to Freenas 11 because I was still testing out 11, making sure it was stable enough for me to want to jump trains and move forward. Because as I've talked about before, once you move forward to a new version of Freenas and you update your Z pools, if you have a catastrophic disaster, there is no way to go back. So people that did that for Freenas 10, that jumped on the Freenas 10 bandwagon and updated all their Z pools and everything else, they were pretty hosed. They had to pretty much start over. So I always suggest, be on the last stable release, and then you can test out features of the newest Freenas, and then give it a while, see if the bugs are there, see if everything's cool, if it's copacetic, and if it is, then if you feel like it's up to you to feel like you're ready to pull that trigger and move forward, then do that. And realistically, the biggest reason to move forward would be because of updates to ZFS, or even updates like what's happening in Freenas 11. They're updating the interface, and they're actually bringing Docker containers to Freenas 11, which is something that people really liked about Freenas 10, but they're doing everything the right way. You'll still have jails, you'll still have VMs, and you'll have Docker eventually. So anyway, this video is not about any of those things. This video is about another Freenas plugin. So I'm gonna start doing a video. I'm trying to do one once a week, but it's probably gonna be more like once a month with a new job and everything. So I'm going to try to do a video on Freenas plugins. So a Freenas plugin that I'm using right now that I really, really love is Transmission. For the longest time, I was downloading torrents. I used BitTorrent, I used Azure, I used uTorrent. uTorrent was probably the smallest one to actually download with. So I would download torrents. Now, torrents are not bad. Inherently, torrents are not illegal. It depends on what you're downloading with the torrent. If you look at a version of Linux, and it happens to be Ubuntu Linux actually gives you BitTorrents to be able to download. So you can download BitTorrents and use the BitTorrent network to download these versions of Ubuntu. Now, I usually download a couple of different versions of Linux a month because I'm testing things out and just trying out VMs and everything else. So I wanted to be able to see my torrents. So the idea about this was I wanted to be able to see torrents from anywhere in my house on my network, and maybe even be able to see torrents remotely so that I could download torrents if I chose to from some other place. And I wanted it to run, no longer running on my actual workstation, but running on a remote location. And the thing about my Freenas box is that it just sits there until we're digesting media from it, until we're watching movies or something else, it's just sitting there and it's idled down pretty low. It runs hot because it's a Xeon 775 based install, so those chips are quite warm. But it's not a big deal. It's all air cooled. I thought about water cooling it, but anyway, I digress. I wanted to be able to have a way to download torrents that was not on my main machine. So by doing that, I started diving into using transmission as a way to actually download torrents in a web-based GUI. So this is pretty cool. So I'm gonna take you through how I did this. So I'm gonna go here to available plugins. I'm gonna walk you through it. I already have a transmission running, so it's okay. You can install multiple transmissions. You actually can install multiple of any of these plugins. It just gives it a different name. It gives it like, you know, Plex Media Center 2, and yeah, that's all it does. It just gives it like it just gives it a number 2 to its name, and it doesn't care. So it's like, yes, I want to install transmission. So it's making a brand new jail. So this is basically just an automated script to make a jail. Once it makes the jail, it installs transmission into that jail, but it's doing it all, you know, automatically. So you don't have to really know how to do anything. You just have to know what you want to install. So it's almost done. Now, one thing with this, and once we've got this set up, and this is already pretty cool. Now, I'm going to show you something that's going to make sense once we go in and set up the, once we set up more of the configuration of transmission, this will make more sense. So I'm going to go here to storage, and these are all of my pools. So you can see all my pools in here. So when I'm testing out things, I have this this one gigabyte pool that's just sitting here. This is my PHX strip pool, and it's just, so I've got an iSCSI device running on this. I've got a 40 gig iSCSI device running on this, just regular storage, and then I've got this Tor storage. So what I did was I made a brand new, so I can come into this pool, so this PHX strip, I can come in here and actually make a brand new data set. So I can create a new data set, and I'm going to call this tester, and I can make it a Windows share or whatever. I can make it a share type of whatever I want to. And I'm going to go to advanced mode and look at this. So I can set a quota for this data set, so I can tell it how big I want it to be. I'm going to say like 40 GB. And then that will leave a, and I can set that for all of its children. So anything that I made underneath this data set would also be 40 GB. And I'm going to say inherit, and let's do LZ4. I'm going to say add data set. GIB. There we go. Gib. So you can see I've made a brand new data set. Let's see it. And there it is. It's underneath this Tor. So I made it underneath this. So it's just Tor. That's fine. So I'm gonna go here to my jails because I want to see something first. So in my jails, you'll see there's transmission _2. So it is at 10.1.10.2, and it is running. So if I go here to plugins and go to the second transmission, you can see this is the kind of the configuration for it. So I want to set up a watch directory. So I'm going to say browse, and then let's do a watch directory. I'm going to say, and you'll see right now, if I click on this for watch directory, it only shows me transmission. So I need to give transmission some data, a storage. So while I'm in jails, I'm going to come here to transmission and go down here to where it says add storage. So let's say source. Go to mount. Let's go to PHX strip. I'm going to go to Tor. I'm going to go to tester. And then the destination for this is going to be media. So basically I'm making a semblance link. Now I could come in here and type in like another folder name, and you'll see create directory is checked. So when I click on this, hit OK, it's basically going to make media and then make a folder inside of it called files. So it's going to create that directory for me. So if you type in a name for a name for a directory that doesn't exist, then Freenas will make it. So if I come in here now, let's go back to that transmission installation, and I'm going to go here to watch directory, and the watch directory, I'm going to make it media and I can make it files. Right? So I can choose an incomplete download directory. So I need a place to be able to store this while it's downloading. So I'm going to make the same folder the place where it downloads it to and keeps it there until it's done. The next thing you'll see, I have RPC Web UI. I'm going to enable that. And then RPC port 9091 is the port. And then if I want to have this locked out and have authorized use for it, I can turn on RPC off required and then give it a username and a password. And then cache size, I'm going to make this, and this is in megabytes. You can see this is in megabytes. I'm going to make it 300 megabytes. And then permissions, I'm going to leave those at 7.5. Well, actually, I'm going to do these at 7.7.5. So read, write, and no execute. And then you can also do 7.7.7. And it looks like everything is good. I'm actually going to, right here, it says web interface can be found here. I'm going to click on that and then go back to my Freenas tab. And then while I'm there, I'm going to hit OK. So now I've got storage set up for transmission. So if I go here to transmission, let's see. Oh, let's go check. Because sometimes they say they're running and they're not running. And let's stop it. So boom. And then let's start it back up. Actually, let's go to plugins and start it up. So let's go here to plugins and go to installed. And yeah, we can see it's off. So I'm going to say on. Now if it's a plugin, usually if it's a plugin that you've installed, you more than likely want to stop and start it from the plugins installed tab. And it looks like this is having trouble trying to start. Probably because I've already played with this a little bit, and I think the last one that I made was on IP.2. So let me pause this. I don't want us sitting here and waiting. I'm going to pause this and let this start up. And there we go. I just stopped it and started it over again. So it should be good now. So let's refresh this. And yeah, so we can see I'm at 10.1.10.2 9091, and this is transmission. So I'm basically able to download torrents from here. So if I go to the Ubuntu page and go here, you'll see BitTorrents. I'm just going to copy this link. So I'm going to right click on this and say copy link address, and then go to my transmission, and I'm going to go here to open my torrent. And oh, we got to do this too. So here inside of my transmission interface, I'm going to go down to the little wrench, and let's tell this where we want this to download to. And I'm going to do this. So it's going to be media / files, because it should know where that's at. And then we can just close this. So now when I come here and say open torrent, yeah, you can see, look, it's showing me the right destination because it's only 40 gigs, which is what we set up for that Z pool. And I'm just going to enter. So I just click here and paste the actual that actual file, and I'm just going to hit upload. And what you'll see happen is that in a second, it's added my torrent. And you can see it's connecting to its peers, and yeah, it's off into the races, and it's starting to download. It's connected to 5 out of 25, 5 out of 33. I'm downloading at 1.3 megabytes a second, and this is going to be done in 47 minutes at 1.62. I'm up to 7. So you can see as I start connecting to more peers, it's downloading, and it's downloading to that space that we set up in storage, and that's where it's downloading those torrents to. Now, just like anything else inside of Freenas, you can make that torrent, you can actually take that torrent and share that torrent to Windows. So you could set up a Windows Samba share or CIF share, or CIFS share rather, and be able to get into that folder from your Windows machine, and then interact with it, move it around, do what you want to do with it. It's actually pretty cool that I'm running this on Freenas. Now, something on top of that, if I come here, there's actually a program called Transmission Remote Gui. So Transmission Remote GUI is really cool because what this does is it lets you see your transmission that's running off of Freenas. So right now you can see this is hooked up to 10.1.10.91. This is the one that I already have running. I'm just going to go in here and let's see if I can find out. Where is it at? That's weird. So we need to change this guy. There we go. So I'm going to go in here. So the only thing I did was I went down here to where this is at, left click on it, and I'm going to go to 2 and hit OK. And look, you can see, look at that. It's showing me this guy right here. All right? So it's showing me that this is downloading. So if I were to come in here and stop this and say you want to remove it, I'll say yes, and then give it a second and you'll see this updates. So basically this transmission remote GUI is connecting to this IP address and port number, and I'm controlling the Freenas installation of transmission from Windows, just from this user interface. Now the cool thing about it is that realistically this is only using like 6 megs of memory. It's using like 0.1 of CPU, and it's using literally no network to my workstation. Because the thing about it is sometimes when I'm rendering, I'm sending stuff to my render servers. I don't want torrents eating up part of the bandwidth of that connection. So by having it go to the Freenas box, it's not interfering with me rendering or sitting on top of it anyway. Now I have a I'm using 1 gigabit connections. I'm about to go to 10 gigabit connections whenever I can afford to, but right now I'm using bonded 1 gigabit connections to connect things within my home network and within my working network here at home for the rendering and stuff that I do. So I didn't want my torrent basically futzing with my internal network by having to, basically download this from do my torrents on my PC anymore. Now, could I have just used another computer? Yes, I have enough computers in the house that I could have just used another computer and downloaded torrents that way, but I wanted a centralized place to be able to control my torrents and be able to see them without having to use things like remote desktop or anything else. And this gives me the best way to be able to use transmission as a download torrent for torrents and for magnet links to download things and not really worry about where they're at. So hopefully this has been a helpful video showing you how to set up transmission. If you have any questions, then leave them down in the comment section. I try to get to everybody that's left me comments. There was a comment about showing how to set up a Freenas box from the very beginning, and I'm actually working on that video because I'm working on getting the drives and a brand new platform. I'm thinking about going with an AMD platform, and no, not like a Ryzen. We're going to do that for another build, but I'm thinking about using some old AMD Opterons, because the funny thing about it is AMD takes so much flack for their desktop PCs, but their Opterons, their server PCs, or their server chips are actually really awesome. Like, I actually have a couple of servers that are running 6-core, like dual 6-core chips, which gives me 12 cores with 32 gigs of RAM, and they're running on a 300 watt power supply. They're only 1.8 gigahertz chips, but that's 12 threads at 1.8 gigahertz. So that's 12 threads at almost 2 gigahertz with 32 gigs of RAM. So, and it's all running on it's a 1U, running on 300 watts of power. Like, that's pretty efficient in my opinion. Anyway, I'm working on building a brand new platform, so when I get all that stuff in here, I'm gonna do a build video, because I'm thinking that new platform is probably gonna either be a 3U or a 4U server case, because I'm actually building a comm closet. So it's gonna be either a 3 or 4U server case, and I want to be able to have hot swap bays. So I'm probably gonna go with the Rosewell case. Rosewell makes a pretty nice case. It's not the greatest, it's pretty nice. Because I'm thinking about, you know, building a pretty beefy NAS for that, and so I can have redundancy. I want to be able to have redundancy for this NAS, because I've actually lost this NAS before. I've lost these pools before and had to download all the data that's on it. Now, luckily, nothing critical's on here. It's just a bunch of movies, and that just meant I had to sit down and re-rip all of my DVDs and Blu-rays again so I could get them onto my server. But that, you know, wasn't a huge thing. So anyway, if you like the video, then then subscribe here to the channel, and if you have questions, please leave comments down there, and if you liked it, hit that like button, and if you didn't, then let me know that too, because realistically, as I said before, the content that I make here on the Phoenix Inceptions channel with the Dr. Media is really for everybody else, because I just love technology. I love playing with this stuff, and I just want to share that, and hopefully you get something out of it, and you know, you can start leaving links to some of the cool stuff that you guys are doing with some of the stuff that you're learning from what we do here at Phoenix Incep. So until next time, I'm Delmico L. Cunningham, better known as Dr. Media, and I'll see you later.